Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good evening.
What's going on?
What's going on? Well, we're doing a video today about English, about vaccines and antibodies.
Great job.
So this morning we just wanted to start a subject about what things that are on the news, vaccines and antibodies, and just to help you get familiar with some of the phrases and words that are on the news right now, okay? Because it's really important for your life to pay attention to the news and what's going on. So there's some important things about the news. So Reese is going to go first, as always, with the terms that we have. So, all right, go ahead. What's the tough one? The toughest word here today?
Vaccine.
No. Come on. We practice this first.
Vaccine.
Look at the stressor on there. It's on the second C.
Vaccine. Oh, no.
Good. That's better.
It's
Okay.
better?
Okay. Vaccine.
Vaccine.
Okay.
Vaccine.
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 What's the next one?
Antibody.
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 Right.
Antibody. Plague.
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 Right.
Plague. Pandemic.
Pandemic.
Pandemic. Epidemic. Epidemic.
Yes, good. Epidemic.
Epidemic.
Briefing. Good.
Briefing.
All right, let's go over the terms again. Okay, I'll go first and then you go. Vaccine. Okay. Antibody.
Antibody.
Can't hear you.
Antibody.
Good. Plague.
Plague.
Try to combine the P and the L. Plague.
Plague.
Yeah, not plague.
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 Okay. All right. Now look at the stressor first on the next one. Okay. So it's in two parts, two syllables.
Pandemic.
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 Good. What's the next one?
Pandemic.
Epidemic.
Epidemic.
Okay. Good. What's the next? What's the last one?
Briefing.
Yeah, briefing. Okay.
You go.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over them again. These are difficult words to pronounce, and they're in the news. Okay. Vaccine. Antibody. Plague. Pandemic. Epidemic. Briefing. Okay. All right. So let's. So Reese has this subject of coronavirus briefing. Okay. Things that you hear in the news every day. They talk about the coronavirus and what people are doing, what people are saying, the science, the politics, all the news that's related to the coronavirus. And there's some important things that everyone needs to know. That's why they should watch the news. Not too much, but check it frequently. Okay, so coronavirus briefing. All right, so I'm going to go first here. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. Much bigger. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Who will have antibodies?
Who will have antibodies? Who will have antibodies? Those who have coronavirus. I'm sorry, those who have survived coronavirus. Those who have survived coronavirus. Okay. 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 So someone is asking, it's easier to pronounce with hand. Could you be more specific? Do you want me to point? Okay, let me know. Okay, so I'm going to make another pass at these. All right. Vaccine. Vaccine. Mm-hmm. Antibody. Antibody. Okay. Plague. Plague. Okay. Pandemic. Pandemic. Notice the stressors on the word. Okay. Epidemic. Epidemic. Or quickly, epidemic. Pandemic. Epidemic. Briefing. Briefing. Okay. Coronavirus briefing. Coronavirus briefing. Okay. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. Okay. All right. Who will have antibodies? Who will have antibodies?
Who will? Who will?
Who will have? Who will? Who will have?
Who will have
Antibodies.
antibodies?
Okay. So correct English sentence. Okay. Those who have survived coronavirus.
Those who have survived.
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 Mm-hmm.
Survived.
Mm-hmm. Those who have survived coronavirus.
Those who have
Survived.
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 Survived. Coronavirus. Virus.
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 Coronavirus.
Right. Good.
Coronavirus.
Okay.
Those
All right.
who have
Okay. So make another pass here.
normal again.
Okay.
Norm.
Vaccine. Okay. Notice the stressors. Close your eyes and listen to how the word is sounded, how it sounds, how it's pronounced, and then read the word and pronounce it silently, and then say it correctly. Hear how it's pronounced correctly. But always try first. Okay, even if you think you're going to be wrong, just push it out. Try first. Okay, Reese, you're going to go first. You're going to go again. I want you to pronounce this one, the words again.
Vaccine.
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 Remember the stressor and
Vaccine.
Good. Okay, what's the next one?
Antibody.
Good. Antibody. Good. You did it.
Antibody.
Corrected yourself and you did it. Okay, what's the next one?
Plague.
No.
Plague.
Plague. Right.
Plague.
Yeah, it's not plague. Okay, plague. The word drops off. The sound g drops off. No,
Plague.
right. Plague. Okay.
Pandemic.
Good. Pandemic. Very good. Okay.
Epidemic. Epidemic.
Good.
Epidemic.
Okay, good. And
briefing.
Briefing. Sing, wing, ring, briefing. Briefing. Okay, and this one here?
Coronavirus briefing.
Good. That's a mouthful. Coronavirus briefing.
Coronavirus briefing.
Very important to pay attention every now and then about the coronavirus briefing. Okay. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. Go ahead.
There's no vaccine to fight this plague.
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 Plague. The word,
Plague.
the sound drops off. Plague.
Plague.
Plague has a sound. Okay. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. Go ahead.
At first, it was an epidemic.
Okay.
Epidemic.
Instead of saying at first it was a epidemic, that's incorrect. It's an, because we have a vowel. We have a word starting with a vowel here. And then we have a pandemic because this is a consonant. Okay, so at first it was an epidemic. The whole sentence. At first.
At first.
At
first, it was an epidemic.
An epidemic. An epidemic. They get threaded together. Okay.
An epidemic.
And now it's a
pandemic.
Right. It's a
pandemic.
Okay. At first it was an epidemic. And now it's a pandemic. And now it's a pandemic. Okay.
Go Norm again.
Okay. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. And now it's a pandemic. Okay. Who will have antibodies? Who will have antibodies? Those who have survived coronavirus. Those who have survived coronavirus. Yeah, these are difficult.
Those who have
survived coronavirus. Yeah, okay. So we have a question here when you read with hand. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, okay. I mean, someone's asking, saying it's easier, to do it by hand. But what you can do is when you're reading the word, okay, you can see the stressor. The stressor will help you pronounce it. Okay. Pandemic, pandemic, pandemic. Okay. And then when you look at a sentence, okay, it'll have commas and prepositions that will slow the sentence down, okay, to help you pronounce it. So let me give you an example, okay. At first, it was an epidemic. Here's the word and. So it's kind of separating. Okay, so you can kind of pause there. Okay, so at first it was an epidemic. At first it was an epidemic. And now it's a pandemic. Now it's a pandemic. Okay. Reese, go ahead. At first.
And first.
At first, not and.
At first. At
first it.
Don't give me this.
No. Go ahead. You're doing fine.
At first, it was an epidemic. And now it's a pandemic.
Epidemic.
Epidemic.
Okay. Epidemic. These are difficult phrases. Okay. Difficult words. All right. I'm going to make another pass here. Okay. All right. Okay. So the first term is vaccine. Vaccine. Okay. Antibody. Mm-hmm. Plague. Yeah, dropping the word drops off, the sound drops. Plague. Okay. Pandemic. Okay. Epidemic. Okay, just speed it up. So pandemic. Epidemic. Okay. And the last one, briefing. Briefing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, news briefing. Pandemic. Right. It's a report. It's a briefing. Okay. All right. Coronavirus briefing. Okay. All right. There's no vaccine to fight. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. There's no vaccine to fight this plague.
There's no vaccine to fight this
plague. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. At first, it was an epidemic. Okay, so in conversation, see, I just want everyone to know that for me to go really slow, it's difficult for me because I just want to kick those words out. Okay, so I have to slow myself down in the way I teach. Okay, so because I want to converse, because it's so I've been doing it all my life. Okay, so at first it was an epidemic. You're going to learn how to combine some of these words together. Okay, at first it was an epidemic. It wasn't. And this, when you start combining the words, the syllables, okay, this is, again, I'll mention it again, this will help stop the tendency for native Asian speakers to put a in between, like needa. I need to go to the store. No, need to go. I need to go. Not need to go, it's need to go. Okay. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. Okay.
It's just normal thing.
Yeah. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic.
First it was and
Okay, remember the goal of conversation is to make the sentence flow. Okay, and that's what we're trying to achieve here, is to learn new terms, and so you can hear slowly, and then you can hear how the sentences and the words are pronounced in conversation, because they're different. Because humans will with language, they'll tend to make the language flow easier for them. Okay, everyone always takes the path of least resistance, just like electricity. Okay, right? There's no vaccine to fight this plague.
there's no vaccine.
There's no vaccine to fight this plague. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. Okay. Who will have antibodies? Who will have antibodies?
Who will?
Who will have? Who will have? Who? I don't know. Who? I'm asking the question. Who will have antibodies? Those who have survived coronavirus. Those who have acquired the disease, the virus, and then survived it. Its symptoms. Okay. Those who have survived coronavirus. Okay. All right, I'll make one more pass. Any more questions? I have some thumbs up here. That's always good. Okay, so, all right, so look at the stressors again. Okay, we took them off yesterday, or the last one, but okay, so vaccine, okay, antibodies, antibody, excuse me. Good. See? Okay. Plague. It's a small sound at the end. The word just drops right off. Plague. Plague. Okay. Pandemic. Epidemic. Briefing. Okay. Coronavirus briefing. Okay. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. Okay. At first, it was at first it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic.
At first,
it was an epidemic.
It was an epidemic.
Not it was. It was. At first, it was a.
It was a.
Was an. At first, it was an.
It was an.
Epidemic.
Epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Epidemic, and now it's a pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who'll have? Yeah. Who will? Yeah. Good.
Who
okay.
will?
Yeah. Someone's stating. Okay. All right. Okay. So.
Who will have antibodies?
Antibodies.
Who will have antibodies?
Antibodies.
That's
plural, 2 or more. Okay.
Those who have several
Look at the word. Don't guess. Survived. Mm-hmm.
Those who have survived.
Not have a. Those who have survived.
Those who have survived.
Those.
Those.
These.
These.
That's.
That's.
Okay.
Those.
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 It's a Z sound. Those who.
Those who
have
survived.
Good. Coronavirus.
Coronavirus.
Those who have survived coronavirus. Okay.
Oh, you could.
All right. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're learning.
You're normal again.
Huh?
You're normal again.
Normal again. Okay, I'm gonna make one more pass. Reese wants me to make one more pass. Okay. Vaccine, antibody, plague, pandemic, epidemic, briefing, coronavirus briefing. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. There's no vaccine to fight this plague. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. At first, it was an epidemic, and now it's a pandemic. Okay. Who will have antibodies? Who will have antibodies? Okay. Those who have survived coronavirus. Those who have survived coronavirus. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hope you learned something today. The other thing that we're trying to mention for this week is to don't watch the news all the time, all day, but just stay on top of the news. And, Reese has, she watches the news. She complains that sometimes I watch too much news. But it's important to know what's going on, if there's new developments in the news. Most important for me and the rest of the world is the development of a vaccine for this terrible, terrible crisis. So the sooner we have a vaccine, the sooner everything will be back to normal. Okay, because we're not going to be normal for a long, long time, I think. It's just the way it's going to be. So maybe not. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a breakthrough. Maybe there'll be a smart scientist somewhere who will figure something out and roll up their sleeves and do better. Okay? Do their best. Okay. Thank you so much. Tomorrow we'll do more news stuff, more terms that are on the news right now to help you understand. So when you hear these words, you can say, I need to listen to this. Okay, because a lot of it is talk, and they talk very fast on the news because they don't have a lot of time. So they have to get as much news out as they can. So they speak quickly. So you have to pick up as much as you can because it's so fast. Okay. Sometimes a translator doesn't even get it right because they're talking so fast. Okay. But anyway, thank you so much. And until next time, study hard, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, husband. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Have a good time.
Good. Learning a lot. That's all. That makes me feel good. Makes Reese feel good too. Thank you. You learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Enjoy the day.